Can you guys see me? Okay, I think we're on. Hi, everybody. All right, we're hoping that this live thing works because lately it has not been working for us. All right, yeah, we're both in there.
Now. It's going to work.
There's Craig, Caesar, Mich. Hello, everyone. Come join us and learn amazing things. So we have 3 9-10 minute sections that we will, and he has a clock up there.
Okay.
And the first 2 are just us chatting. And then the last one is I would just ask you some kind of fun questions to kind of spark a new conversation.
Okay.
You bought goodies too.
I did bring goodies.
Oh, good.
You have no
we
idea.
have show and tell.
Do I need to do anything specific with directing my voice, or just kind of
with that
relax?
mic, you can be pretty direct on it. So if you can relax right now, I can kind of place it.
Okay.
Because you're gonna inevitably get relaxed,
Right.
During the show. So you can really, this mic is designed to really be right up on it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be afraid.
But I don't need to go in like this real tight.
No, I mean, don't make yourself uncomfortable. But the closer.
We're supposed to be comfy.
Can we just sing this? I'm much more comfortable
There you
singing.
Well, why not?
Why not?
But it is pretty direct. So if you can kind of stay pretty up on it, that's probably going to make it sound the best. And feel
So
free
who
to
do we have?
move this however.
There's Frank Hopper.
Okay.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Frank.
Frank is with Go St. Louis. I was just talking about this. I was just telling you about them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now we're quiet. We're like, are we starting? Tell us when you're about ready, Rich, so that I'm like paying attention and doing what I should be doing.
Okay, I'm about ready. If you don't mind, just real quick, I just want to make sure you guys are good. If you could speak into your mic just a bit, maybe.
Hello, hello.
Tell us what
Testing.
You had for breakfast or something like that.
I had nothing for breakfast but coffee.
That's all I
Should
have.
be interesting.
I don't eat breakfast.
Yeah.
I just do coffee in the morning.
You know, when I'm traveling, I eat breakfast, but
Do you?
Yeah, without fail. I mean,
not
I
a
always eat
breakfast
breakfast when
eater.
I'm traveling.
Yeah, and they say it's the most important meal of the day. I'm like,
I know.
Not to me, apparently, because I never eat it. I seem to do fine without it.
I didn't have breakfast either, so
No.
coffee was my breakfast.
If I was going, although I've decided that the universe wants me to eat better because every time I turn around, I'm either meeting a person that does something with like it's called plant forward. So it's you highlight vegetables more so than meat.
Right.
Okay. So I keep meeting plant forward people. I mean, every time I turn around, it's like, here's another person like, we're plant forward. I'm like, I get it. I will start eating more vegetables.
Eat your vegetables.
I mean, it's not like I have a terrible diet, although I do like candy.
Yeah.
I
I
really
eat well
like
when
candy.
I eat, but I just don't tend to take a lot of time to eat sometimes.
Yeah, I can get busy and not eat for the whole day, and then I'll be on my way home thinking, I am really hungry right now.
That actually happened to me yesterday. I had no
Let's-
breakfast. I had some lunch, a little bit, but then I didn't get home until about 8:30 and hadn't eaten anything
I had a
else.
late night too. Yeah, but I was doing the taping was
Right.
at Vicia, which was a
Oh,
very
yeah.
plant forward.
Right
Oh
next to
my
Tech Shop.
Gosh,
That is a wonderful place. It's
holy, it's awesome.
Oh, man.
I mean, the beautiful food. The place is beautiful. Beautiful food. So I'm going to have Tara and her husband on.
Yeah.
Tara and Michael are the Galena. They're the owners, and I was like, please come on my podcast and talk about all that's wonderful with food.
Yeah.
It was so much. It was to me like I wish somebody could cook like that for me every night.
No kidding.
I'd be so plant
You
forward.
feel like I felt like I was on vacation.
Yeah,
I ate there.
it was
You know,
very,
it's just very nice.
and it made you feel good to eat that kind of food. and-
healthy, fresh,
Yeah.
really good.
And they
So that's
have
plant forward. We're eating
relationships-
plant forward.
And we're doing it. We're there. But she was telling me they have relationships with like 20 different farmers. So that was
locally
like the
sourced as
first
well.
year of their business was going out and meeting farmers. Really cool.
The only thing I don't like about Vicia is that I spend a lot of time at Tech Shop and I smell their food every time when
Only
I'm
thing I
coming
don't
out of
like
there
is
and I
they're too
haven't
yummy.
eaten anything, right? To take that conversation full circle. Come out and, oh man, it smells good.
That smells so good over there. Well, it was fun. It was the perfect place to do our first taping of the show, and it was just really
What a great
fun.
concept. I love that.
I know. Arts Fair. Watch it.
Arts Fair.
I'll let you guys know when it's out. We just did our first taping, and around design, you can't go wrong,
Yeah.
right? You're all about design.
I'm all about design.
Yeah, we know how important design is now. I mean, it's always been important, but I think it's really showing up bigger than ever.
I think it's tied in with some of our earlier chatting with there being so many choices.
Yeah.
You really have to stand out, you know. You
Yeah.
have to have something a little
Get
bit.
above the noise. That's tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Yeah. But it's good. I think it's healthy.
Well, and my hope is that with AI coming in, my hope is that AI makes it possible for people to really do what they want to do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that AI will take care of the things
Take care of the things that are just sort of filling
that
our
maybe
head
you
with.
don't want to do.
Yeah,
and that
it's
you
true.
can like go and be an artist if that's your true calling, that you can like go be an artist and make money at it.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be a really good thing?
That's a really good positive spin on AI. But it's a bit difficult to find those because people are just sort of confused and afraid.
I kind of get why.
Yeah.
There's that we've scared ourselves with it.
We've made lots of
Like,
movies
we made
about
lots
the
of
downside
movies
of it.
about, you know, the robots are smarter than this. Oh my gosh, and they can remember a lot more. And okay, great, we're really screwed. You know, it's like, which I imagine could happen.
Yeah.
But my favorite story, I saw a TED Talk. This gentleman was talking about, you know, what we would have to teach these robots. You know, that we would have to teach them, you know, what is important to us,
Right.
so that the robot would make the right choice. And he did a whole story about this. He goes, imagine you call home, you talk to the robot, and you say to the robot, the kids must have dinner. Please feed the kids. They must have dinner before I come home. And then the robot's looking around. There's no food to cook, and then kind of looks over at the family cat and is like,
Meow.
you know. And so you would have to teach the robot,
Right.
This is a family member. We don't cook the cat, you know. So it's interesting. I mean, I'm good that people are thinking about all of this, you know, ahead of time. Yay us for that. But, you know, there's going to be things we didn't think of ahead of time.
Yeah.
We're going to go, oh.
Well, that's the thing with complex systems, you know. You just don't really know how that logic is going to play out.
Exactly.
Until you test it up against some real-world data, real-world
We'll
situations.
have to do a lot of testing. We'll have to
Yes.
do a lot of testing. Yeah, so I'm like, yay, AI, but also I think that it would be good to like, it would be good to like make it so that we are melded, like the whole singularity thing, where where machine and man come together.
We need a big red off switch too. No, bad
Stop
computer.
it.
Stop.
All at once.
None of this having a conversation, you know, a meaningful. Why are you acting this way? Because you scare me goodbye.
All right, you have to go.
I have to
I'm
go.
sorry.
Time to go.
We had a relationship. It was good. It's over now. All right, are you ready for
Did
us?
you get all that?
Yeah.
That was golden.
Yeah, I'm set.
Well, people here get to hear us.
That's
Yay.
right.
I'm set. Like I said, you can probably pull that even a little bit closer to you.
Okay.
I know it's weird because this desk, like, it's like your legs are right up on it. But I think we'll be pretty good.
And am I good?
You are good.
All right, awesomeness. All right, we're going to start. Yay.
Yay.
How exciting.
All right. So music goes afterward, right?
Yeah, he plugs all that in after, so.
Cool.
Oh yeah, we need the timer up there.
Work.
Hi, this is Mich Hancock, and you are listening to Mishmash, a place where I get to talk to the weird, wacky, wonderful people of this world, people I adore and want to know more about. Today, my guest is Craig Caesar. He is the founder of Maker Makers, which translates STEM and STEAM-related content into curated projects for parents, educators, and makers to help kids succeed. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks, Mish.
Well, I am so excited to have you here because when I met you, so I met you at Medici, and you had all these beautiful, amazing, very complex can I call them puzzles?
Yeah,
Would that be
puzzles.
the correct?
I think that's the best way to think about them. They're kind of like little magic tricks in a box.
Ooh, and it was very Escher. It had like an Escher quality to it.
Right.
So, I mean, how did you get to this place where like, I'm going to make these?
Oh my goodness.
That's a big, long journey.
It is a big, long journey. And it starts being a kid just being fascinated with geometry. And I always admired M.C. Escher's work. And after processing all that geometry for many years, I won't say how many years, but pretty many years.
A few.
Yeah, a few. I finally had an opportunity to sort of exercise this. And what happened was that I designed a table. It's a pretty cool table. It's cut in 3 pieces, and then it assembles together. And it's just held together by gravity, so I call it a gravity table. But it has these designs in the legs that are kind of wasteful, so I had a lot of waste wood when I'm making these tables. So I was looking at it, and Escher popped into my mind. I was like, well, I could cut some of those lizards out of that waste. They'll all be identical, so they'll all fit together, and it'd be an interesting experiment. And so I cut those just to set on the tables, so that there'd be something interesting on the tables when I was presenting them. And of course, people said, "Yeah, so how much for the lizards?"
Really?
So believe it or not,
who cares about the table? I want the waste.
That's right. I've sold a lot of these lizards, and what's interesting about it is that it's not only less waste to the landfill. When I start with the intention of making one of these puzzles, I know that every bit of that wood is going to be used because it's equal. It's all based on equal division of the plane, so that one piece sort of creates the space for the next, and that pattern just repeats infinitely. So no matter what you cut these things out of, and as long as they're the same size, they all fit together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love it that you're still using geometry.
I know.
Because there's so many people don't. They're like, I'm never going to use this again. But here you are using it in artwork. Mm-hmm. And so how did that bring you to a place where you were like, I'm now going to do something for the youth, the kids?
It actually started the reverse, interestingly enough.
All right.
Yeah.
We like that.
Right. Well, you probably know I'm a recovering technology executive.
Yes,
right?
You shared that with me.
So when I left the corporate world, I was blessed with some time to spend with my kids. I have boy-girl twins, and they just turned 13 on Friday the 13th.
Ooh.
So at this point, they were 11 going on 17. No, 11 going on 12. And they had both sort of experimented with programming, using something called Scratch, and it's kind of a visual programming environment where you just use the language of logic and you put blocks in place that do something. They move a character across the screen, or they do something. So
wait. Uh-huh. I'm not seeing this in my head.
Right.
As a person that would have no clue what you're talking about. How would you... So are they digital blocks or are they actual blocks?
They're digital blocks. There's actually
Okay.
some products where it kind of melds physical with digital. But
Okay, gotcha.
The Scratch is something that was developed at MIT, and it's an introduction to the language of logic. So the way I explain this in my classes, for instance, is that at the end of the day, all a computer knows is yes or no.
Okay.
All that AI stuff boils down to yeses and nos,
Gotcha.
just a whole bunch of them, and they happen really fast, right? So if you think about a light switch, you turn it on, the light's on.
Right.
Turn it off, the light's off.
Okay.
So if I asked you a question, is the light on?
Yes.
Yes. If I turn the switch down, is the light on?
No.
No.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you're a digital computer.
This part I can do.
So in a graphical computer language, what you can do is you have a block that says, if this condition, then do this condition.
Right.
And that's really the basic building block of logic. So rather than knowing the words to tie those questions together, you just drag a block in place, and then the system creates the machine language, which is ones and zeros, yeses and nos, and it does something
Gotcha.
that you described.
So is it similar like Minecraft? Would that be in the same family? Or okay.
Not well,
You can
I
tell
guess
I
in a
don't play
way.
in that world.
Yeah. Kind of in a way, but you're not so much constructing a world as you're constructing a solution.
Gotcha.
So you have a goal. You want to move this character across the screen. So you say, if this character is at this position, move forward 2, and then once it's there, turn left. So you can
Gotcha.
kind of just spell out the path.
So your kids are messing around with this.
So they're messing around with Scratch, and my son especially made some pretty complex games out of it. But I could tell he was kind of losing interest because, there's just so much that you can do with that environment. So I wanted to teach both of them how to code. So I went out and I bought this thing called an Arduino, and spent a couple $100s on all kinds of cool parts and pieces. And I'm a geek from way back, so it was fantastic fun for me too, with the intent of teaching them actual programming language. Well, I spent all of my time trying to get the things to work together. And the examples online, I thought, well, I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. I've spent a lot of time programming. It should be easy, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
So at that point, that's where I started bootstrapping Maker Makers as a venue for me to teach, because as I worked through creating lessons for my kids that worked well, I started to think, well, I'm not the only parent that's struggling with this. I'm not the only teacher, and that's turned out to be very true. So it really started with the programming and wanting to inspire kids with technology, show them how to make light and sound and motion with these electronics and the science behind that.
I love it.
And so that led me to Tech Shop, because I had an idea of a part I wanted to include in the class that I would 3D print. So I taught myself 3D design software and came up with that part, and that's when I dreamt up the table. And so I made the table to put the electronics on to present, at an event. And the first reaction was, yeah, the electronics are great, but how much for the table, right? So this is full circle, right?
See, if you ever want to sell something, just try selling something else first.
Exactly. So I put out whatever I think nobody wants to buy, and that's usually what they'll buy.
That's awesome. And so how many kids are involved with Maker Makers then?
Well, it varies, really. I've taught very small classes, like in a homeschool enrichment program.
Okay.
And then larger classes at Tech Shop. And then I've also hosted my own classes. Actually, I'm planning to have some in January.
And parents have to love it. I mean, so I learned a term last night. We have millennials, and I was wondering, because my daughter's 15, I was like, I wonder what my daughter's age group is going to be called. What is this generation? Right. And I heard screenagers was in the running.
Oh my goodness.
And there's so many parents that are concerned about their kids being in front of screens all the time. This seems like a really good way to get them away from a screen.
It's very insightful. You're dead on, and that's what parents get very excited about. And it was a big part of my motivation. I felt very glad that my kids were interested in programming, but I could see them losing interest and spending more time just watching YouTube and consuming rather than creating. So this idea of avoiding creating or not contributing to a generation of consumers kind of inspire kids to think differently about that technology behind the screen. What's making those pictures show up?
I love it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Oh,
all right, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Craig Caesar. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, screenagers, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. It sort of formalizes it, and I'm really hoping we can avoid it.
But it is difficult, I think. I mean, I do hear parents talk about their kids that just won't get away from a screen, and, I'm lucky my daughter communicates with people and, knows how to talk to adults and all that good stuff. And I'm sure your kids, they sound like they are the same way. They're doing awesome things with technology, so... You're ready to go right now.
What's that?
Are you ready to go right now?
I'm just making sure I don't miss. Sometimes you're not too bad about it. Sometimes people will just start talking, and then I'm like,
am I supposed to do something?
Yeah. So, generally, I'll just be rolling, but this makes it easier than cutting stuff out. But just let me know.
So I haven't been conscious of the microphone. Am my position okay?
Yeah, you're okay. You could probably get a little closer.
Closer. Okay.
But don't make yourself obviously the conversation is more important, than getting thinking about the mic the whole time. But yeah, if you get a little bit more directly on it, but it sounds pretty good.
Okay. I want to make sure the rich and deep tones of my lovely voice are
getting the radio voice going.
Yeah,
all right, well, I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay.
and we are back with Craig Caesar. So, Makers, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Are there a certain age group that you
My
work
original
with?
intent was for 10 years and up. At the time that I was describing, my kids were getting ready to enter middle school, which is interesting for lots of reasons, right? But at that point in time, it felt to me like, at least in our school district, they were doing a great job at the elementary school level, introducing things like Scratch and these other things called littleBits that you can use to, turn a banana into a switch and crazy stuff like that.
Oh, cool. I have heard of littleBits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then up in high school, a lot having to do with robotics and opportunities for that, but not a lot in middle school when these kids are really kind of experimenting and finding out what they're drawn to. So I sort of sensed that there was a bit of a void in there to be filled. And especially having a boy and a girl, that's like a great built-in test bed.
Right.
But I found that my daughter responded to some things differently than my son, and so the curriculum that I developed is very balanced in that way, so that it's not just about robotics.
Right.
So that, a girl doesn't think, well, robotics, that's just a bunch of greasy boys. I don't want to be a part of that, right? And a boy doesn't think, oh, art, that's not something that I'm interested in.
Right.
But when you put it in front of them and you show them, using a simple device and the science behind it, that they can make 16 million colors with a few lines of code, talk about behind the screen. All of a sudden they understand that one little light that's, kicking out all that color is like 1 pixel on a phone or 1 pixel on a TV.
Right.
And that's where they really start to expand. One of my favorite stories was I had a student one time that was attracted to my class because she wanted to make pretty flashing lights for her skating outfit.
Oh,
that
really?
moved with her motion, right? Which I thought was a brilliant idea.
That's really cool.
And it got her in the class. So the first thing I do, of course, when I start the class is start talking about science. And so she was kind of bland. She's like, oh, what decision? I don't know.
Lights.
But when we got up to the science of light and combining the color, that was her motivation. And she really started to respond, and then she was very interested in the rest of the science.
Oh,
so
how cool!
I found it to be very effective in that age range. But now I'm just saying 10 and up. The parts are relatively safe. They don't blow up often.
Relatively.
Yeah, relatively. But
I will not harm
truly,
your children.
We were talking about parents earlier. A lot of parents say, well, why can't we take your class?
Well, yeah.
And why not? It was kind of a forehead slapper. It's kind of, well, of course. So what I did was I designed it so I encouraged the parents to attend. It's no additional cost for them to attend, but then they know a little bit about what their kid's doing, and it's not so scary to them either because, I have an advantage because I understand a little bit about technology and kind of what to look for, but I just can't imagine not being, comfortable with technology and trying to make decisions and guide my kids.
Right. Well, and I mean, that the kids know a lot more about a phone than you do. I mean, you get where parents are kind of like,
yeah, your daughter could, get the streaming happening.
Which she would probably see. I got it.
It's still working for us, right?
So, all right. So, and that's also cool because the parents get to spend time with the kids, and their parents are always looking for ways to get kids to pay attention to them at that age, especially, right?
Right. And I think I can say this safely because I'm a father. I'm a dude. 3D printers really get the guys to show up.
I bet.
Which is not always the case.
Right.
And so I've just found it to be a really interesting mix of drawing across different age groups and interest levels, and everybody gets something a little bit different out of it.
Well, it's so fascinating, the whole 3D printing thing. I mean, when you start thinking of all the things you can do with it, I mean, it's I think it's a universal that people are interested in that sort of technology. So
there is a downside.
What's the downside?
Well, our dishwasher broke recently, so I was able to 3D design a part to fix it. So my wife didn't get
downside.
Well, my wife didn't get a new dishwasher, which she might have preferred. But.
Well, I got it, but still, I like that. I like the thought that you can go print. That's really cool.
Yeah. So right now on the space station and places like where space is at a premium, it's difficult to know what you're going to need. If they need to design a part, they either design it up there or an engineering team here does, and beams it up, and they just print what they need.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, and how cool. I love that. But,
And it doesn't get old watching it. It's so fun. Just lays things down a layer at a time. It's just amazing to watch it unfold.
It's kind of meditative.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because I've seen it. We've had them at TEDx before, where they've had the 3D printers, and I could just kind of zen out watching that.
You can. And they have the soothing back and forth. Yeah.
I'm telling you. So I also know you're a band guy.
Yes.
Talk about your band stuff.
Oh my. Well, music's just a huge part of my life, and it's a big part of my story, really. Because I started out studying the violin, and my grandfather was a fiddle player and a square dance caller, so I was always attracted to his shiny rhinestone-crusted violin that I could never touch. So when I finally got a chance to touch a violin, that's what I wanted to do. And so I studied classical violin all the way through college, was going to be a performance major. But then I got married, and kind of priorities changed, and 8 to 10 hours of practice a day was wearing a little thin.
Gotcha.
So I decided it would be better to pursue another passion, which was technology and programming, and just do that for fun. So that's kind of how it's worked out.
Gotcha.
I was a rock star.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Tell us.
Well, back in the 80s, I was part of a band that we were pretty successful locally. We had some interest from MCA in Nashville.
Really?
So I was proud of calling myself an underemployed professional musician for a number of years.
What was the band?
The name of the band was Matrix, and actually I've reconnected with my buddies. We've known each other since I was in junior high school. And so we're playing locally as Shiver now.
Shiver.
Yeah.
So what kind of music?
Good old stuff. Everything from Alice Cooper to we cover some Blondie. I mean, it's all over the map.
Oh, fun.
Weird, wonderful, and wacky.
Weird. Perfect for me. I need to come to a show.
It's a little on the harder edge.
Oh, I'm like a punk.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure you'd find something that you like in there.
I could get into. Well, and and I do like. I don't know. In fact, I just had Connor Murphy from Foxing.
Uh-huh.
He was on the podcast, and we were talking about how we're like these really loving people, but we kind of like that little dark stuff. And I said, well, I actually think that maybe that's a good way to channel anger and sadness and that kind of through your music, as opposed to running around with a gun. Let's just channel it through the music.
It's all in there. You might as well be present with it, right?
Rather
than ignore it or let it do something.
It's got to go somewhere, and you want it to go somewhere that's a little healthier than hurting people. So let's go with music. Yeah. I'm always for the music.
Yeah.
Well, awesome.
So I play bass in that band. I was taught violin, then I taught myself how to play guitar and drums and piano, and I'm a pretty decent singer. So it's one of those things where I've always had to find extra time to do that, but I'm finally to the point where I can make that a really strong part of my life. And I always found that when I would be away from playing the violin, for instance, for a while, I would start over without some of the problems that I developed. Kind of like when I haven't played golf for a while. I've got a great golf game, but as soon as I think about it, it's a different story. So each time I would go back to the basics and almost relearn and forget some of those bad habits. And so at this point, it's easier for me to play the violin than to talk or to sing or to do anything. It's just a part of me. And it's I think that's part of what has inspired me to teach, is that I learned at a very early age to be conscious of what I was doing well, what I could improve, how I reacted in different situations. And so I'm finding more and more that there's other skills that I have that I've always gone back to, like design, like just making art for the joy of making art, that have matured somewhere in the back of my mind over these years, where I was focused more on being a corporate presence and chasing the dollar and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I'm really enjoying exploring that and encouraging not just kids, but other people to think differently about what they're doing,
Yeah,
what are you really passionate about? What do you keep coming back to? That geometry, it was back there churning, and I was always thinking about it, but I never had a venue to exercise it. But man, once it had a voice, I mean, it's taken on a life of its own.
Things. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, good for you. And so there's a lot of deeper lessons in all of this, right? I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back with Craig Caesar in just a moment. I love it. I love people living their passion.
Yes.
Because, I mean, we were talking about it last night with, you know, these the people that were part of the video last night, that we were like, we actually are really blessed people.
Yeah.
That we've gotten to
Yeah.
live our passions. You know, we've figured out how to make money at things that we like to do. You know, I mean,
it's going to be
easy.
It's a growing demographic too. You know?
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of people in the situation, and I have every expectation that I'll have. You know, I'll never stop working. Especially not as an artist, you don't stop working.
I don't think I will. I was with my financial planner one time, and he was like, "So when do you think you're going to retire?" I'm like, I don't know, 75 or something. And he looked at me kind of weird, and I went, "Why? Is that weird?" And he's like, "Well, it's just kind of older than what most people would say." And I'm like, "I got a lot to do."
Yeah.
Well, I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon.
Right.
So, in my head, my thought was, well, why would I retire anytime soon? I'm doing all kinds of fun stuff. I'm exploring things. I don't want to stop.
I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah. So, I think it's cool. I mean, I can't even imagine, because, I'm 54. There was a time where 55, right? Didn't people...
Yeah.
I can't even
Well,
imagine.
some people still want to retire by 50. It's kind of like a badge of honor. Oh, I retired.
Well, but then go do something else, because you're gonna
Take some time off now and travel while you're healthy. Right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Okay, I'm ready when you are. And we are back with Craig Caesar, and I have some questions for you, sir.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So this is meant to just take us out of our whole conversation into something, a little bit different. So you're working with these kids, and I feel, and I would love to get your opinion on this, I feel like our schools are not keeping up with the kids in their interests. I feel like they're losing a lot of kids. And I'm just judging from my daughter and talking to her friends, I feel like they're not very interested. Like there's something that's missing in our schools. Have you thought about this at all?
I have.
I'm ready to listen.
Okay. Well, we already talked about my feelings on middle school and kind of choices. I think that teachers are so heavily burdened with providing data that demonstrate specific results that someone's looking for that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with my kids.
Yes.
So there's a tremendous amount of money and effort spent to have the report show up, and I know how important that is.
Right.
To justify funding, to sort of have an economy behind where the energy is being spent. But I just wish there was a way that teachers could have kind of a buffer or a button they could press when it says, this is really not doing anything for my kids. This is not a good use of their time or my time.
Allow them to teach, to be I feel like a lot of teachers now just here's the program, stick to that program.
Right.
Don't be creative.
Yeah.
And I don't
well,
think
let's
that's
face it,
necessarily good for everybody.
No, and it's exhausting work. I just have so much admiration for people that do that, day in and day out. They really have a heart for it, but I think, again, they're under some pressures that we don't fully understand. And I know that I'm usually pretty tired when I get home and call it a day, but I just can't imagine getting home and then having to think about the next day and all the preparation, all that stuff. Just teaching, the way that I do. I get home and I'm exhausted.
And you don't have to grade papers, do you?
No, I don't.
See, so you got that figured out. So of the maker culture, I mean, this is a movement.
Yeah.
This whole culture. I mean, so I saw, I just wanted your opinion on this. I saw something that said it's tech DIY. It's DIY for techies.
Okay.
Is what they were calling this maker culture. Do you feel like that makes sense?
Yeah,
Is that
I think
the
so.
way to call it? What to call it?
Kind of like me, making a part for my dishwasher.
Okay.
It's not anything that I do for money, but it was a problem that I had, and I was able to find the solution. I think that's kind of the draw. People that like seeing a problem and coming up with a better mousetrap, or just have an interesting idea and want to see if it's possible.
Right.
Can you do this? Oh, you can. You can make that thing.
So does anyone come to you, and this is not one of my other questions, this is just why I want to, but does anyone come to you with an idea and say, I have this idea, is this a possibility?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, a lot. Especially now that I'm kind of getting a reputation for having an affinity for that.
Right.
The bar napkin conversations are so interesting. I'll have somebody come up and say, I've had this idea for like 5 years, and I've talked to a couple of people, and it's never gotten any traction. And so they'll draw out the picture. This actually happened. Draw out the picture on a napkin.
Yeah.
An actual napkin.
Yeah.
And I go down into my office and 3D model that and kind of create an engineering drawing and turn it around within an hour or so.
What?
Yeah, and that's their reaction. It's so fun.
Oh,
so that's
fun.
That's what keeps me coming back.
Because, there's like, I have ideas, but I would not have one clue how to make it happen. Like when it comes to the techie, sciencey, no, that's not Mich's head.
Yeah.
I mean, you want an awesome video production show, I can help you out.
I
but,
do.
Well, then we will talk. We need each other's skill sets. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Okay. That's so cool. I love when somebody can present an idea and then there's this magical person that can implement the idea.
Right.
That's always a good combo right there, right?
Mm-hmm. But there's more. I know you have another question.
I do have one other question that I want. Sorry, Rich. You might want to put a marker on that one. Tell me when we should start talking again. Just go ahead. All right, go ahead.
So that particular idea actually came to pass in a physical form. The local maker movement and culture is very strong with Tech Shop now, and we have Arch Reactor and all kinds of great maker spaces.
Right.
So I was able to take parts of that idea without giving away the whole idea and find the person that could do the metal work, and I could do the woodwork, and I had done the design already. So like within a couple of weeks, we had a prototype for this person.
How
it was awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then is that the kind of thing that, does it eventually lead to maybe going to a company and saying, hi, have we got a solution for you?
Or, all the great marketing channels that are there now. Get something into the Apple Store and you're going to be okay.
Yeah, that would be nice,
and
right?
And that particular idea might fit there, but I can't say anything else.
Okay, we won't talk about our secret anymore. So, okay, I do have this other question for you, and that is, you've worked with all these kids. Which kid just was like, this has blown my mind? Like, which kid did something that you were like, wow, that's fascinating?
Oh gosh, this is going to be self-serving, but my son blew me away.
Good.
When I was
I want it to be your son.
when I was developing the classes, I had come up with this idea that I wanted to demonstrate that an RGB LED, which is red, green, and blue,
right,
that can be combined to make 16 million colors. I wanted to focus a very early class on that because I just intuitively felt like that was going to grab them. So it was true. And I had built a very simple program that cycled through several different colors kind of slowly so you could see, the change was abrupt and it was easy to see. And I could tell that he was kind of like, well, that's pretty cool, but if we speed that up, that'd be a disco ball. So then I thought,
fun.
wait, I've got some little practice golf balls. So we put that on the LED, and sure enough, we had a disco ball. So I left him to it, and he was sort of like, well, couldn't we cycle through and fade between the colors? All these ideas just started popping for him. So I left him, I gave him a little bit more detail on looping and kind of making values change over time. And I came back a little bit later and he had solved that. Not only that, but he went in the cupboard and found a straw and put that on the LED and said, look, Dad, it's a lightsaber.
I love it.
So I was sufficiently blown away.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I have too many stories. But since he's my son, I have to use that one, right?
Well, yeah. But I also want to know if the girl ever was able to make her lights for skating.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah,
and was she ice skater or roller skater?
Ice skater.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the follow-up class to the one that I taught was on wearable technology, which built on the skills that they had learned in the science, but more strictly on creating. Okay, now what do you want to do with this?
Okay.
And so that was a natural fit for her.
Yeah. Wow, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So someday am I going to see Olympic skaters out there, just...
I would be amazed
awesome.
if we don't. It seems like a great application of the technology.
Why not?
You can hear the music and flash of the music, the motion.
At least at the ice capades. Is that still around?
I don't know.
I don't even know. It seems like I would know that, but I might. Obviously, my radar's not on the Ice Capades, so sorry, Ice Capades. If you're out there, give us a call. Let us know you're still there. Come on the podcast. What have you? So, if there's a kid out there or a parent out there that would like to learn more, tell us where to find you.
Well, makermakers.com. That's with an S. Maker Makers. But we're on Facebook also, and there's an Etsy store that has some of my artwork and work of other collaborations with other artists. But the description of the classes and the kits and things like that is at makermakers.com.
Cool. Well, thank you, Craig, so much for being a guest today.
Thank you. I'm thrilled.
I super appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. And everybody out there, make sure that you go to iTunes and subscribe to Mishmash, and we will catch you all next time. Thank you. Very good. Awesome. Okay, I have this idea I want to tell you.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys, I can't share it with anyone. You have to
Bye.
go.
Thanks for
Bye.
watching.